my whole thing is I want to use photography. And the reason I want to be great with it is because I want to use that as a means to, make change in different ways with kids and helping kids, similar to myself, because even growing up, I never had money, or I couldn't ask my mom to buy me something. And someone really, Livestock, actually, the sneaker store, they actually bought me my camera to start. They really helped me in that sense. Like, they bought me the camera and I worked a year for free for them.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like I want to multiply that by 100, 200, 300 and just like help a bunch of other kids who have dreams but don't have the access.
I originally met Jamal when he hit me up on Instagram just through a DM and was kind of mentioning that he was coming to Hong Kong. I was kind of unsure of, who this guy was. Like, I knew who he was as a quote unquote Instagrammer, as Jayscale, but I was kind of curious, like, oh, this guy's hitting me up. That's kind of cool. Like, I was like, oh, how does he even know about me? But as we started talking and started connecting more, we eventually met up in Hong Kong, and I gotta say I was pleasantly surprised, because I always, and this is me being a bit judgmental, but when it comes to people that have large Instagram followings, I'm usually 50-50. I'm like, man, this guy might be a flake, or this guy might be really interesting. And, I was pleasantly surprised, because he came with a level of maturity and a level of, vision behind his work and what he was trying to do, that it's an energy that naturally pulls you in. You kind of understand this guy's not just here to be, internet famous. He actually has a purpose and a mission behind the work he's creating. When I first met him, he was super soft-spoken, super chill. It kind of pushed me to want to understand this guy a bit more. Like, he's really quiet, and how do you find a way to kind of open him up and kind of understand what he's thinking? Over the course of this conversation we had, it kind of became clear that, hey, there's a lot of complex things and a lot of bigger picture things that Jamal's thinking about, and what he wants to achieve is very clear. So I'm personally super excited to see what he has in the pipeline and how he plans to achieve it, because at the end of the day, he's still super young. He has an understanding of what that visibility can help him achieve. And that to me is one of the most interesting things. Like, some people develop these massive followings and their hope is to monetize it. Other people, like Jamal, they see it as a vehicle towards a better community, better culture, better society. And that to me, I wish happened a little bit more often. I think that he comes across, especially through his answers, as someone that understands the big picture. My favorite takeaway from this interview was his openness to his past and his desire to connect it to the future. He didn't necessarily come from a place of means, and he's built up this platform, this following on his own accord. Despite the fact he didn't necessarily have all the opportunities growing up, he wants to kind of put that in front of everyone else going forward. Props to this guy. Do a lot of people know how you got into photography?
A considerable number of people.
Yeah.
If anyone knows me and asks, I just realized I like taking pictures with my phone.
Was there a moment in time when you were like learning how to shoot and you're like, oh, you know what? Like, this is the one thing about photography that draws me in every single time. Like, is there something that drew you in at the very beginning?
At first, the whole reason why I took the jump and quit my job is because...
What were you doing at the time?
I was in school.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to become like a sports doctor.
Yeah.
And the job that I got offered, it was with Nike. So I'm like, yo, I could work with Nike as a photographer, and I actually like taking pictures. So let's do a good job here, and then let's try and get some more. And then I realized, let me give this a try. Let me spend a year working on this and trying to get better and see where it takes me.
Yeah. And how do you think that sort of translated into, what do you think people classify you as when it comes to photography? And do you agree with that, or do you just live with it?
I mean, people will label you so quickly, and especially if before you even built up your portfolio, you've built up your Instagram, you're going to be called an Instagrammer before you're called a photographer, and you'll get hit up for work related to Instagram and not work.
Like Instagram type material.
Yeah, like you'll get hit up for work on that tip, but you're not going to get hit up for just editorial work. because they see you as an Instagrammer. And that's something that I've fought through and battled through to be in the position I am in today, where, you know, at first, if I was making a living or taking care of myself through photography, a big portion of that was taking Instagram jobs. And I worked very hard, even like taking a step back just to make sure that that's not where my work is coming from, because I pride myself on the photography first and growing and learning. And it's been a long but short amount of time. And I feel as if someone were to like try to describe me as a photographer, they might bring up the fact that everything I'm doing or posting and sharing is all in black and white. And then two, like, I hope they see it, but I really pride myself on capturing moments versus taking pictures, because I think those two things are totally separate and they're two different fields of thinking.
Yeah. And for you, when you started getting into photography, you were to pursue it on a more professional level, you were kind of setting the path amongst people around you. Like, you didn't really have like an uncle or someone to rely on, right? How did you navigate that? Or was it just because the phone is so accessible, for better or worse, it allows you to quickly figure out stuff?
That too has been one of the things that I've been going through, and that whole idea of not having a direct mentor related to photography and what I'm interested in, where I want to go. So I think the way that I've developed and improved and put myself in a better position, just moving forward, trying to make progress every day, I just reach out to people who are successful in their respective field, and I would ask them questions that were kind of general, specific enough that I'm able to take bits and pieces away and apply to what I'm doing in terms of relationships.
Like, I definitely noticed that when we first started talking, like, and we didn't really know each other that well, you were already like asking a lot of questions. And I think that that's really interesting to me, because a lot of people generally don't have anything to say, or they don't ask questions, or whatever it may be. And like, I thought it was really fascinating in that regard, because at the end of the day, and this is me and my own personal sort of approach or insight into people that build like a really strong social media following. Like, it's easy for you to associate a large following with success. You know what I mean? Like, some people do that and like, oh, you know what? I have, you know, like 200,000 followers. Like, what do I need to learn? Or at least I'm not as hungry for knowledge. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the one thing I was like pretty surprised about when I spoke to you, or we just started connecting, right? Yeah. That's what sort of lured me in terms of like, oh, could be interesting. Like, what is your internal pursuit of improvement? Yeah, for sure. My whole thing is, if I could learn something every day, then I'm a better person tomorrow. And I definitely have always tried to stay away from that, because whatever amount of followers I had, I know that the platform I share my stuff on is just one of many. And someone could have 200,000, 400,000, 500,000 followers on any platform, and they might be granted a lot of opportunities based on their likelihood. But there's also YouTube, you know, there's also Facebook, there's also the real world, there's activists, there's real people doing real things. And to walk around and think that you're something already just off of photos you take, and if the photos don't really hold any meaning, the number doesn't mean that much, you know? Yeah. Did you play a lot of basketball growing up? I played basketball, but I watched just as much, and just always a fan for the game, and it really influenced my style, my love for sneakers, and just the knowledge that I was interested in obtaining. Do you think that there's part of you now that still holds the same sort of values or interests? Like, you know, do sneakers mean the same thing to you as they did before? Or now that you're trying to, like, you have these bigger agendas, helping kids, whatever, like, does it start to push away from that sort of sneaker world? I would definitely say that photography and making change has taken... I've always been thinking about making change since I was a kid. Yeah. Why is that, you think? Because of the way I grew up and not having much, and seeing my mom go through what she went through and wanting to help people, you know, and wanting to help people, and realizing as I got older, you know, I realized that parents, based on their situation, it affects their kids too, you know, and there's a lot of things that I had to learn on my own. And if I learned this, half of the stuff I learned in the last 3 years,
when I was 15 or 16, I wonder where I'd be. So I want to give kids that deserve that information as soon as possible, so that there's less violence, there's less all the stuff that doesn't need to be happening, there's less of that. So that's like a huge motivating thing. And the sneakers in basketball, yes, I love them deeply, and they mean so much to me. But like, if I had to pick a trip that's going to help me get better at taking pictures, or spending a little bit extra to get like a pair of new Jays that are coming out, I'm gonna pick the trip. I'm gonna pick the education, because at the end of the day, I don't know, I tell myself this, like, if I become great at what I do, everything that I'm sacrificing now, I'll be able to cop when I'm older.
That whole desire to kind of effectuate change, like in your most ideal circumstance, how would you make that happen? Like, what is like the structure or like the approach? Is it like, oh, I'm making this up. Like, oh, I'm going to build a school.
That's exactly what I'm going to do. That's exactly what I want to do. I want to build a school.
Yeah. What would your ideal school setting look like?
I mean, it's weird, and I don't feel like people know too much about like how schooling systems work, and even myself, I don't know too much, and that's something I'm going to be learning about. But in the areas where kids need the best education or the most resources to actually become successful, it's not the case. If it's a low-income area or a more dangerous area, that's not going to be a teacher's first choice to go work in. They're gonna want to work somewhere else, and the people who end up working at those schools, that's because they didn't get a job somewhere else. And don't get me wrong, there are teachers who want to be in that setting and help those kids, but more often than not, it's like the teacher taking the second best job, and they're walking in there with, I don't know, not the heart to make change, when that's the place to be doing that. So I want to make a school where, and the setting essentially would be for kids who need the most attention and need the most information. Yeah. And it's a hub for that. And it's a hub where, there's an art room, there's a media room where you could learn about computers and the piano and the camera and all that stuff, all the stuff that they don't necessarily have access to. I want to provide a place where that's all facilitated.
Do you think that your upbringing now and like the different parts of culture that you kind of intersect with, whether it's photography and like the creative world, where you grew up from, sports, like, do you see yourself as a bit of a connector between all those different worlds?
Yes. And I'm slowly learning that, and I think we had this conversation the other day, like, you can be really good at something, but sometimes you need to bring something else to the table, and you need to find ways to implement your personality, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to make you unique. You could be really good at something, but if you don't connect with certain cultures or different cultures and bring them all together, your voice is only so big. So I wake up every day trying to figure out how I can combine each of my passions and put it into one place.
How do you deal with things that don't go according to plan?
I think the one thing that we're all up against is time and responsibility. And for me, there's days where I get frustrated, or I'm not satisfied with, even if I did make progress in different areas, if it's not what's like on my mind at the given moment to improve on, I start to get stressed out, and I try to figure out, okay, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna make this happen? And I think that in all of this, the biggest eye opener has been the traveling and the people I've met, because just like on this trip alone, and coming out here to do a workshop on street photography and documentary photography, I realized that you have to implement your personality and your skill set into everything you do, and it's made me want to cancel the next trip I had coming up, to be gone for 20 days and do more of that street stuff, to just be home and really buckle down and like try and find a space where I can start promoting or fostering that energy and bringing everything together.
Yeah. In terms of projects, what are the types of projects that you're currently being hit up for, and what are the types of projects you wish you were doing more of?
So the projects that I'm currently getting hit up for, I just came off a month trip to Africa with the president of the Raptors. He has a charity over there, and that taught me a lot about making change and working hard and putting your passions together. But aside from that, so basketball related, charity related, sport related, like Nike will hit me up to either one, do like a low key like content production for them and just provide a bunch of photos for them for their social channels and stuff, and for the media they're working with. Or I might get hit up to like do some stuff with Nike and like post it on my social. And that's only happened recently, and I feel like that's the only type of stuff I would be doing when it comes to posting on social now. So that's been a blessing. Outside of that, just like personal stuff, I've been trying to find a way to present the stuff that I've been shooting the past year in a way, because it's stuff that I haven't really posted on Instagram. I've kept to myself because it's better than that. And people don't understand that, and I want to connect with the people who appreciate what I do. So
what would that look like? What would be the best way for you to
in my mind it'd be like a publication of sorts. And I've already gone through a sample, got some feedback, and since I'm out here on the east side of the world and I'm going to be in Japan again, I'm going to try and get a bit more, because the first one I'm working on was based on Japan, and I had about a good 15 to 25 images in it. I can't remember the exact number right now, but hopefully I can get, if I shoot for 8 days, get another four to six, and just maybe take a couple out or add a few more, or maybe I could add some other ones that make sense now, and then just put that out into the world. And it's not a book, but something in between. And
do you ever feel like, you know, what people might portray you as or think of you as is not the reality?
I've definitely removed myself from the everyday social aspect of it and communicating and sharing. But that's because I've become so focused on trying to find my lane, the next path I want to drive down, to experience new things and learn new things about life. And I still share, but yeah, I definitely think that they may not have the best understanding of who I am, or they might have a perception of me, but I do think that I've become a bit better with how I word the stuff I put out there and the stuff I'm sharing. Like when I cared about the numbers and stuff, I wouldn't post anything charity related because I know people don't care about that. But now if I'm going to use social media and I want to be myself, I'm going to share the stuff that I care about. So there's been a switch in that sense, and I've been sharing the charity stuff.
The stuff you really believe in.
The stuff I believe in. And I've seen my numbers drop. I've seen my follower count go down, and I don't even care. And I think that's the best part about it. I never cared about the numbers, and I don't pride myself on it, and I don't associate. I associate the fact that I worked hard to get there, but aside of that, like, I pride myself on making sure that I don't let a number affect my personality. And I'm just always trying to be a student.
Based on where you've gone right now in your career and like your successes and whatnot, how much of it is based around luck and how much of it is based around hard work?
I would say it's based on the energy I put in the world. And I think it's a combination of both, because sometimes I wouldn't consider what I'm doing hard work, and sometimes I wouldn't consider what I'm doing luck, or what I get luck. It's always connections and the people you meet and the people you're able to relate to. So I think it's just the energy I put out. And that being said, it's just that every day I wake up, I want to change the world, and I want to be good at photography. And I elicit that in everything I say and in the way I carry myself. And I think people pick that up right away. Like you said, like I was ready to learn as soon as I met you, because I admire what you've provided for a lot of people. So I think people catch on that really quickly. And I think that I'm the beneficiary to certain things because of that.
Does it frustrate you how difficult sometimes it is to pass along a positive message? You know, when charity, as you mentioned, doesn't get the same love as like something very prototypically street.
I try not to let stuff like that frustrate me. More so, I'm just optimistic that if I continue to just lead through action, more and more people will do it, because the time I spend being frustrated on something, I could invest that energy into something else. Like, you know, send a positive message to someone else as opposed to just being negative about something I see somewhere.
Yeah. Has that always been the ongoing narrative for you? Like always positivity, always on the positive tip? Or were there moments in, you know, growing up where you had to kind of like take a step back and realize, yo, I need to check myself?
I've always tried to be positive, especially in the last 2 years, as I've gone through this whole phase of just trying to discover myself and take care of myself so that I can take care of others. And I think before that, I've gone through tough phases in terms of identity and when it comes to the work I'm doing, what it is that I want to do with it.
When you say identity, you mean where you stand within, the photographic world, or
where I stand with my friends, my family. At the time, it felt like where I stand with Instagram and stuff, that kind of stuff. But you quickly realize you're bigger than that. Everyone's bigger than that. It's just a platform. And I think the challenges that I've faced growing up and having to figure it out on my own and finding out that there's a way to learn on my own now, I've just been positive ever since. And
how would you define the process of learning on your own? Like how do you best structure that for ultimate, success, or to like actually have something that's scalable? Like, hey, you know what? Like I've now sort of broken down the approach to learn in an efficient way.
I'm still learning how to do that. So my approach is whatever comes to mind, just ask, and try to apply it and get better every day.
Do you see any parallels between basketball and photography?
Personally, yes. The feeling I get when I'm fully invested in it, it could be like a serious game. I'm not as good as I would play before, but like when I remember being young and being able to just like go up and express myself freely and be able to, score and do that. And then today when I'm taking pictures and I'm in a place where the people don't even speak the same language as me, but they seem like some of the best days of my life. There's parallels there. There's similarities in terms of the emotion I experience, because I feel like it touches all aspects of your intuition.
If you had to describe yourself as an NBA player, but of the photographic world, who would you be?
Well, I'll be Devin Booker.
Why is that?
Because he's sick. He's good. He's gonna be great.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. If I was to really think about it, that's like the quick answer. But maybe you could help me. I'm just trying to think of someone.
I'm not that good with basketball players.
I'm not that good with basketball players. Oh man, I'm trying to think. Maybe like Klay Thompson or something. Just like quiet approach and just always trying to get better.